All right, we're looking at quadratic applications today. These are real-life applications that deal with quadratic equations. First thing we have is one right here. Now I've changed these numbers from our assignment, so these answers will not be correct. But it says the width of a rectangle is 6 meters less than the length. If the area of the rectangle is 160 square meters, find the dimensions of the rectangle. Okay? It says the width is 6 meters less than the length. So which of these two is the smallest, the width or the length? So if you think about it, the width is 6 meters less than the length. The width is the smallest. We'll let that be x. Okay? That means the length, since the width is 6 meters less, then the length is going to be 6 meters more. Okay? So there's our two variables, or there's our two dimensions in terms of variable x. Okay? Now it says the area is 160. Now area is length times width. So I'm going to multiply these together, my length times my width, and that should equal 160. Okay? Now in solving this, I distribute here. I'm going to have x squared plus 6x equals 160. And since I have x squared, that's quadratic. So to solve this, it must equal 0, and it doesn't. So I'm going to have to subtract 160 on both sides to make it equal 0. And now it's x squared plus 6x minus 160 equals 0. And we can just do the quadratic formula. All right, so I'm going to write down here. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I didn't show this on there, but this is the quadratic formula. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. And you can sing it by the Pop Goes the Weasel song. All right. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So that's what I have here. Now my a is 1, so 1 goes here and here. My b is 6, that goes here and here. And then there's my c, negative 160. I'm out of room here, negative 160. Okay? Now, there should be 3 things to do at once here. You got this one, this one, this one. 3 things to do at one time here. So that means right there, that's a negative 6. Down here, 2 times 1 is 2. And in my radical, need my calculator here so I can punch this in. I've got 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 160. And I get 676. Okay, now let's do the square of that 676. 26. Oh, perfect. So this is 26. So I've got negative 6 plus 26, which is 20, divided by 2, which is 10. Then I have negative 6 minus 26, which is negative 32, divided by 2 is negative 16. We can't have negative, so this one's out. So here's what x must be, 10. All right, so now what's my dimensions? All right, my width is 10 then. See, this is 10. And then 10 plus 6 is 16. Oh, didn't write 10. So there's my 2 dimensions. The width is 10, the length is 16, and so I would pick those over here. But of course, like I said, these answers are not correct because I changed the number. Okay, let's go to the next one. And here's another one similar. The length of the rectangle is 1 foot more than twice the width. If the area is 210, find the dimensions of the rectangle. Okay, so we got the length and the width. Which one's the smallest? So my length and my width. The length is 1 foot more than twice the width. It sounds like the width is the smallest, so let that be x. Now how do I write the length in terms of that? All right, the length is 1 foot more than twice the width. So twice the width and it's 1 foot more, so it'd be like that right there. Okay, so there's my length and width in terms of x. Now it says the area is 210, so area is length times width. Okay, so if I multiply these two, that should equal the area, which is 210. And I distribute, so it's going to be 2x squared plus x equals 210. And this is quadratic because x is squared. So it means it has to equal 0. So I minus 210. I get 2x squared plus x minus 210 equals 0. And now I'm ready to use the quadratic formula. Okay. So let me get another piece of paper. All right. So I've got x equals negative b plus or minus a square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, now my a in this is 2. So that goes here and here. My b is, well, that's a 1x, so it's just 1 here and here. And then my c is negative 210. That's, I need to make that thing bigger. Okay. It's a 2. All right, so there's, once we have this, 1, 2, 3 things to do at one time here. So x equals, that's a negative 1. Down here, 2 times 2 is 4. And then my radical, all right, let's see here, I got 1 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 210. Okay, I typed it way down here. 1681. All right, now I'm going to do the square root of that answer. It's 41. Good deal. So x equals negative 1 plus or minus 41. This right here is 41. Okay, now I've got two answers. Negative 1 plus 41 is 40. 40 divided by 4 is 10. There's one answer. Negative 1 minus 41 is negative 42. Divided by 4 is negative 10.5. There's my other answer, but it's negative. We can't have that. So 10 is what x is. So if I go back to here, 2 times 10 is 20, plus 1, that'd be 21, and that's 10. And that would be my dimensions. Okay, number 4. The dimensions of a rectangle can be expressed as x plus 6 and x minus 2. If the area of the rectangle is 128, find the value of x. All right, so here's my length. There's my width. So I have x plus 6 times x minus 2, length times width equals area, which in this problem is 128. Okay? So I'm going to have to multiply these up. So I can do the FOIL method, x times x, x squared, x times negative 2, 6 times x, 6 times negative 2. All right, that's the FOIL method. The first one's x times x. The outer one's x times negative 2. The inner one's 6 times x. And then the last one's. That equals 128. Well, it's quadratic because I got x squared. So I have to do a quadratic formula, which means it has to equal 0. So I need to minus 128 on both sides. And that equals 0, so I have x squared. These two go together, that's going to be a plus 4x. And then right there I got negative 140, 140, yeah. All right, so now I got my problem set up here ready to go. Do the quadratic formula. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, my a is 1, so that goes here and here. My b is 4, goes in this spot and this spot. And then my c is negative 140, and that goes way over here. Up. Okay, negative 140. All right, which means I have 1, 2, 3 things to do at one time here. That's going to be negative 4. 2 times 1 would be 2 down there. And then my radical, I just punch that in the calculator. All right, here I've got 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 140. I got 576. Now do the square root of that answer. And that's 24. Cool. So x equals negative 4 plus or minus 24. So the square root of 576 is 24. And now I got my two answers. Negative 4 plus 24 is 20. 20 divided by 2 is 10. Negative 4 minus 24 is negative 28. Divided by 2 is negative 14. There's my two answers. We can't have a negative here because we're talking about dimensions of a rectangle. So 10 is what x is. So if I put 10 right here, 10 plus 6 would be 16. Put 10 right there. 10 minus 2 is 8. And there's my dimensions right there. Okay, actually it just said find x. So there's x, 10. X would have to be 10. Okay. Now, we get to this equation here. It says Eva is jumping on a trampoline. Her height, h, at time t can be modeled by the equation right here. H of t equals this. I've changed it, if you see. What's the maximum height for Eva? Now, this is h of t is what this is saying right here, which means it's the height at a specific time. Okay? And it's given by this thing right here, this equation. What's the maximum height for Eva? Now, if you think about this, what we have is, okay, we've got Eva jumping on this trampoline. This is a trampoline here, okay? She's jumping up and down on it. She's going up, and then she's coming back down, and she's hitting it and going back up again. But this is a parabola. What's the maximum height up here? Well, that maximum height's the vertex. See this negative t squared, which means it's concave down. See this concave down parabola? This is the maximum height right here. So I just want to figure out what this vertex is. So remember, I got to do the axis of symmetry. X equals negative b over 2a. This is the axis of symmetry. So in this problem, my b is 30, my a is negative 16. So it looks like that. So it's going to be negative 30 on top, and then that's negative 32 on the bottom. And if I divide that, I get 0.9375. That's my axis of symmetry, which means in my vertex, that's my x value. Now plug that in to get the y value. So let's do this here. Okay, so I'm going to have negative 16, and then I'm going to have 0.375, and that's squared, and then plus 30, and then I got 0.9375, and I got plus 8. And there you go, 33.875. Okay, this is my vertex. Which means this, in this many seconds, I'm going to get to this max height. So in just right under 1 whole second, Eva is going to get the maximum height jumping, which would be 33.875 feet. She's getting up there, man. Woo! Okay, let's go to this next one. The Apollo's chariot, a roller coaster at Busch Gardens, moves 207 feet per second. Now I changed these numbers. This is going to be really fast, 200 feet per second. The height of a ride at time t seconds can be represented by this equation right here. What is the maximum height? Maximum, again, that's my vertex. So I'm doing the same thing from the previous problem. So I'm going to do negative b over 2a. My b is 207, and my a is negative 16. So I have negative 207, negative 32 on the bottom. That comes up to 6.46875. That's the x of the vertex. I need to plug it in to figure out what the y is. This is my vertex. I need to plug that in the formula. So let's see here. Negative 16. Let's clear this off. Negative 16 times, all right, 6.46875 in parentheses squared plus 207. Then we'll have 6.4687, oops, and then plus 9. And there you go. There you go. So there's my vertex, which means in 6.4 seconds, I'm going to reach my maximum height of 678.5 feet. Okay, and then of course you're supposed to select the correct answer over here, but the numbers have changed since I changed the equation. We'll go to another one here. All right, an apple is launched directly upward 64 feet per second from a platform 80 feet high. The equation of the apple's height, t at t seconds after launch, is this right here. What's the height of the apple after 2 seconds? So now all I'm going to do there is I'm just going to put 2 in for t. See, that's what t stands for, is seconds, and this is 2 seconds. So I'm just going to take 2, and I'm going to put this in. All right, so we'll just punch this in the calculator here. Negative 16 times 2 squared plus 64 times 2 plus 80. 144. That's how high it is after 2 seconds. Okay. The next one. An apple is launched directly up. Same thing, this apple. Okay, we've got the equation here. How many seconds until it's 120 feet high? Okay, so that's my height. So that's going to go right there, 120 equals negative 16t squared plus 64t plus 80. I'm going to put 120 here because that's the height. We want to see what time gives us that height. So what time is going to give us this height of 120? So I'll put that here. And I'm going to solve it. So that's quadratic because I've got t squared. So I'm going to have to minus 120 on both sides to make this equal 0. Okay. And now I'll use my calculator to punch this in. I'm going to do the quadratic formula first. I'm getting ahead of myself. So this time it's t instead of x. T equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So my a is negative 16. That goes here and here. My b is 64. It goes in these 2 spots. And my c is negative 40. It goes way down there. All right. So now I got my 3 things. Okay, so it means t equals negative 64. Down here I got 2 times negative 16, which is negative 32. And my radical, all right, so I'm going to punch these numbers in another radical. So I've got 64 squared minus 4 times negative 16 times negative 40. I got 1536. Okay, now I'm going to do the square root of that answer. And I get, all right, now this time's a decimal. Okay, so it looks like 39.19 or 39.2. Well, it's got 2 digits, so I'll do 39.19. So here you go. There you go. So when I do that square root, I get 39.19. All right, well now we're going to have 2 answers here. So I'm going to do 64 plus, negative 64 plus this. So over here where you can see it. Okay. So I'm going to do negative 64 plus 39.19. All right. And I'm going to divide by negative 32. And I get that right at 0.77. 0.78 if I round it. The 5 makes the 7 go. So there's one answer. And I'm going to do negative 64 minus that. All right, so negative 64 minus 39.19. Hit equals. Uh-oh. Made a mistake. Oh, right there. It's supposed to be a decimal. There you go. Now divide by negative 32. .13 seconds. So there's my two answers. Now you might ask, well, why do we have two answers here? Well, let me explain this real quick. Here's the ground. Okay, this apple is launched. All right, so it's got some kind of operated machine or something that launches this apple. But anyway, this apple goes up in the air and then it comes back down and hits the ground. But what we're trying to find is how long until it's 120 feet high. See, there any problem? When's this thing 120 feet high? So here's 120 feet right here. And see right there, when this apple's launched, it's going to be 120 feet high right there in 0.78 seconds. And it's going to keep going though, and then it's going to start falling back down, and then right there it'll be 120 feet high again, which would be 3.13 seconds. And so that's why there's two answers. It will be that high on the way up, and then it'll be that high on the way back down. Okay. So we have another one here. All right, this is another one. What's the maximum height? I'm going to do the vertex. I'll let you guys do this one though. It's yeah, I'm going to leave that one. We'll go to this one. A rocket is launched vertically from a 15-foot platform with an initial velocity of 120 feet per second. Here's the formula right here, not this. How long will it take the rocket to reach the ground? Okay, the ground. How high is the ground? Well, we consider the ground zero height. So I'm going to put that in for my h of t. So I have this. I put 0 in for the h of t right here. H of t equals this. Okay? So my height after these seconds would be 0 because it's hitting the ground. Well, to solve this, I'm going to have to do quadratic formula, and it's got to equal 0, which it does. So I can go ahead and do the quadratic formula. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Actually, this should have been t because we're talking about time. My a is negative 16. It goes here and here. My b is 120. My c is 15. Okay. Now there's 1, 2, 3 things to do it first. That's going to be a negative 120. Down here, that's a negative 32. And in my radical, I've got 120 parentheses squared minus 4. And I got negative 16. And I got 15. Woo! Big number. 15,360. Okay, so that's what's in my radical. All right, now I got to do the square root of that. So I'm going to do the square root of that answer. And that's 123.94. So 123.94. And down here I got negative 32. Okay. And now there should be two answers. So I've got negative 120 plus this. Oh, sorry. Negative 120 plus this divided by negative 32, then I got negative 120 minus this, divided by negative 32. All right, so negative 120 minus 123, 0.94, hit equals, and then divide by negative 32, and I'm getting 7.62 seconds. Now I'm going to do negative 120 minus, oh, that was minus. I did the minus first, not knowing it. Okay, and then I divide by negative 32, and I get I got a negative answer that time. So I got, that's out. Okay, so there's only one answer here. And if you think about this one now, okay, let me draw a picture over here to the side. This is a rocket being launched from a platform, a 15-foot platform. So here's this platform, and so here's the rocket. The rocket's going to go up, it's going to hit the ground down here. It's only going to happen one time. See, if I extend it this way, there'd be a 0 there hitting the ground, but I'm not going backwards. I'm going straight up and down. It's only going to hit the ground one time, so there's only one answer to this. 7.62 seconds. And that's what you'll do on this one. You see the answer choices for the real problem. Okay, moving on. We just have a few more left. All right, on this one, toy rocket is launched. Here's the equation right here. How many seconds until the rocket is 60 feet? So we're going to put that in for h of t right here. So this is going to be h of t. And then I'm going to solve this equation. So when is this going to be 60 feet? There's another toy rocket being launched from a 12-foot platform. That's got equal 0, so I'm going to have to minus 60 on both sides to make it equal 0. You got to remember that. Anytime you're solving one of these equations, it has to equal 0. So now it does. Now I can do the quadratic formula. So t equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right. So in this problem, my a is negative 16. It goes here. Let me use this. Negative 16 goes here and here. My b is 128. 128 goes here. 128 goes there. And my c is negative 48 down here at the end. So it's putting the numbers in how they go. And then there's 1, 2, 3 things to do at one time. Okay, so that means t, get another piece of paper here. T equals negative 128. Down here, 2 times negative 16 is negative 32. And my radical, all right, let's punch this in. 128 squared minus 4, negative 16, and then negative 48. Oops. All right, 3216. All right, now, so I've got to do the square root of that. So I'm going to do the square root of that answer there. That gives me 56.71. That's what this is right here. So I'm going to have negative 128 plus or minus that divided by negative 32. That's what t equals. So let's do my two answers. I've got negative 128 plus, here, let me see, get the calculator where you can see it better. Okay. All right, so I've got negative 128 plus 56.71 equals, and then divide by negative 32 equals 2.23. There's one answer. Now I'm going to do the minus one. Okay. So I got negative 128 minus 56.71 equals, and then divide by negative 32. And that equals, there you go. And there's, again, two answers. And there's my two answers. And why do I have two answers? Again, here's this rocket taking off. It's going to come down and hit the ground. Now the question is, when is it going to be 60 feet? So here's 60 feet. It's going to hit 60 feet right there at 2.23 seconds. It's going to hit 60 feet again at 5.7 seconds. 5.77 seconds. That's why there's two answers. It hits it on the way up, and then it hits it on the way down. Okay. Maximum height, again, that's another vertex problem. I'll do this one. X equals negative b divided by 2a. It's supposed to be a b there. So in this one, x equals negative b divided by 2a. My b is 120. My a is negative 16. So it gives me negative 120 and negative 32. All right, so we'll divide that. .75. All right, so that's the x in the vertex. This is my vertex. Now I plug that in the equation right here to figure out what the y is. All right, so I'm going to type in negative 16. I'm going to put 3.75 squared plus 120 times 3.75, and then plus 15. And I got 240. So this would be 240, and whatever your answer is over here, just say it was 240. But this, in 3.75 seconds, it reached the maximum height of 240. Okay. All right. These last two, I'm not going to do them. I'm just going to set them up for you. A penny is dropped off the Empire State Building, which is 1,250 feet tall. If the penny's pathway can be modeled by this equation right here, how long would it take the penny to strike the ground? All right. First of all, how high is the ground? We talked about that a minute ago. It's 0 height. So I'm going to put 0 right here for h of t. Okay, and then I'm going to solve this now. It's got to equal 0. Well, it already does. It equals 0. So here's my a. And look, b is 0. There's no b in here. And right there's my c. So I'll put these in the quadratic formula. Okay, I'll let you do that. As well as this last one here. Let's do this one. Same thing. Pennies dropped off from the Empire State Building, which is 1,250 feet tall. The penny's pathway is marked by this. Now, how long would it take for a penny to strike a 6-foot person that's standing on the ground? 6-foot tall person. Okay, so what I'm going to do is right here for the HT, I'm going to put a 6. So when is this penny 6 feet above the air, which would be the height of this person to strike them in the head? So how many seconds would that take? Now, this is quadratic, which means it's got to equal 0. So I'm going to have to minus 6. And now I've got an equation I can solve with the quadratic formula. Oops, it went off the paper there. So we'll set this one. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. My a is negative 16. All right. So negative 16 goes here and here. My b, oh look, there is no b. So that's a 0 and a 0. There's my c right there, 1244. And there you go. That's how you set it up. I'll let you finish it, okay? So you please finish that one. But anyway, these are quadratic applications. And if you need any help, just contact me, okay? So have a good rest of the day.